my beloved child. Pause here for a moment, because what has found you now is not ordinary, and the feeling that pulled your eyes toward these words is not something you should dismiss too quickly. Somewhere beyond the noise of your day, beyond every unanswered question you have carried quietly, something has been waiting for you to become still enough to hear it. Do not rush away. Do not let another distraction steal this moment. What you are about to hear was meant to meet you at the exact point where your heart has been asking whether love is still moving toward you, whether someone truly sees you, and whether the future you once imagined has already begun forming in a place you cannot yet see. There is a name connected to your destiny. And before this message ends, you will understand why that name has been pressing against the silence around you. Archangel Michael stands near the threshold of this revelation, not with fear, not with darkness, but with the calm strength of someone guarding a truth that has been hidden until the right hour. His presence is steady. His wings are not raised for battle, but spread as a shelter over a moment that has taken longer to arrive than you expected. He is asking you to listen closely because someone, somewhere, has reached a point in their heart where they can no longer imagine their life without you in it. This person does not merely think about you. They are not simply curious about you. They are not passing through a temporary emotion. They have begun to see you as the person they would choose when the crowd disappears, when the celebration is over, when life becomes quiet, honest, and real. They have pictured a home with your presence in it. They have imagined ordinary mornings becoming sacred because you are there. They have wondered what your voice would sound like in the next room, what your hand would feel like in theirs during difficult seasons, and what it would mean to call you not a dream, not a possibility, but family. Stay close, because this is where the mystery begins. For a long time, this person fought against what they felt. They tried to explain it away. They told themselves that the timing was complicated, that the distance was too great, that circumstances were not ready, or that perhaps they were imagining the depth of the connection. They filled their days with responsibilities. They surrounded themselves with voices. They tried to become too busy to notice how often your memory returned. But your memory did return. It returned in quiet rooms. It returned in songs they did not expect to affect them. It returned when they saw two people laughing together and suddenly imagined how you would laugh beside them. It returned when someone asked them what kind of person they hoped to marry. That question changed something. They may not have spoken your name aloud in that moment, but inside them, everything became still. Other faces disappeared. Other possibilities felt distant. And there you were, standing in the private place of their heart where no one else had been able to remain. You must understand this, they did not choose to feel this deeply. That is why the emotion has become so powerful. They were not looking for someone to disturb their plans. They were not expecting one soul to shift the way they saw commitment, loyalty, and the future. Yet somehow, without forcing, without demanding, without even knowing the full effect you had, you became the measure by which they began comparing everything else. There is something about you that made temporary love feel empty to them. Perhaps it was your kindness when you had nothing to gain. Perhaps it was the way you listened. Perhaps it was the strength you carried without needing everyone to see it. Perhaps it was the tenderness beneath your guarded heart. This person noticed what others overlooked. They noticed the way you try to make people comfortable even when you are carrying your own pain. They noticed how you can enter a room quietly and still change its atmosphere. They noticed that your heart is not shallow, and because of that, they became afraid. Not afraid of you. Afraid of losing the chance to choose you. Do not look away now, because the first major revelation is closer than you think. This person has already had a conversation about marrying you. It may not have happened in the way you imagine. There may not have been a ring on a table or a grand declaration before a room full of people. It may have begun in a smaller, more vulnerable way. A trusted friend may have asked why they have not moved on. A family member may have noticed that their mood changes when your name is mentioned. Someone may have gently said, "Is this the person you truly want?" And for once, they did not deny it. Their answer may have been quiet. Their eyes may have lowered. Their voice may have trembled. But something honest escaped from them. Something like, "I can see a life with them." Something like, "I have never felt this way before." Something like, "I do not want anyone else to take the place I should have had the courage to claim." That confession did not end when the conversation ended. It followed them home. It sat beside them in the silence. It became a mirror they could no longer avoid. Since that moment, they have been thinking not only about love, but about action. Not merely about whether they care for you, but whether they are willing to become the kind of person who can stand beside you with honesty, maturity, and intention. Archangel Michael says this is important because love without courage can remain trapped for years. A heart can know the truth and still delay. A person can pray for a doorway and then become frightened when it opens. That is why this message carries urgency, but not panic. The urgency is not that something terrible will happen. The urgency is that a season of hesitation is nearing its end, and this person knows they must decide whether to remain silent or step into the future they keep asking heaven to reveal. They have already begun changing. You may not see it yet. They may still appear distant, uncertain, or strangely quiet. But beneath the surface, they are rearranging parts of their life. They are asking questions they never asked before. They are thinking about stability. They are looking at their habits. They are confronting the parts of themselves that once ran from commitment. Someone desperately wants to marry you, but before they reach for your hand, they are being asked to release the version of themselves that would not know how to protect your heart. That is the hidden work taking place. They know you cannot be approached carelessly. They know you have survived disappointment. They know promises have been spoken over you before and then abandoned. They sense that your heart may still carry the echo of times when you were chosen in words but not in actions. And because of that, they are afraid that when they finally come forward, you will not believe them. This fear has made them rehearse what they would say. They have imagined looking into your eyes and trying to explain why they waited. They have imagined apologizing for the confusion. They have imagined telling you that their silence was not emptiness, but a battle between desire and fear. Yet every version of the conversation ends the same way. They see you asking one question. Why now? And they do not yet know whether their answer will be enough. Stay with me, because another layer is opening. The name you are being asked to recognize is not simply a collection of letters. It carries a history. It carries memories. It carries a feeling that your body may understand before your mind does. When you hear this person's name, something subtle happens inside you. Perhaps your attention sharpens. Perhaps your chest feels warm. Perhaps old emotions rise. Perhaps you become strangely calm, or strangely restless. You have tried to be logical about it. You have told yourself not to read too much into signs. You have questioned whether the connection was real or whether your heart created meaning because it wanted closure. But the reason the name has remained is because the story connected to it is unfinished. Not incomplete because you failed. Not unfinished because you were supposed to chase. Unfinished because both of you reached the edge of truth at different times. When you were ready, they may have been afraid. When they began to understand, you may have been exhausted. When the connection felt strongest, outside circumstances may have created distance. And yet, beneath every interruption, something continued to move. This person has compared everyone they met to you. They did not mean to. They may have tried to give other connections a chance. They may have told themselves that someone simpler, closer, or easier would be more practical. But practical did not feel peaceful. Convenient did not feel true. Every attempt to replace the depth they felt with you only made the difference more obvious. They noticed that conversations with others ended when the words ended. But conversations with you continued in their mind long after you were gone. They noticed that other people admired the image they presented. But you somehow saw the parts they hid. They noticed that attention from others made them feel wanted. But your presence made them want to become better. That distinction frightened them because it meant you were not merely someone they desired. You were someone who awakened responsibility inside them. And now comes the second major revelation. They have imagined proposing to you. Not once. Not casually. More than once, in different places, at different times, with different words. They have imagined whether you would cry, laugh, become silent, or cover your face in disbelief. They have wondered what kind of ring would reflect your spirit rather than simply impress others. They have wondered whether you would want a private moment or a celebration surrounded by people you love. They have pictured themselves speaking your name before asking the question. And each time they reach that moment in their imagination, emotion rises so strongly that they have to look away from the thought. Because in their mind, your answer matters more than anything else they have planned. There is something deeply vulnerable about wanting to marry someone. It is not only the desire to be loved. It is the willingness to place your future in another person's hands and ask whether they can see the same horizon. This person has reached that vulnerable place with you. But there is a secret complication. They believe someone else may be moving closer to you. They do not know whether this is true. They may have seen something, heard something, sensed a change, or simply become aware that you cannot remain waiting forever. Perhaps you seem stronger lately. Perhaps you no longer respond with the same openness. Perhaps your energy has shifted from longing to acceptance. And that shift has awakened them. They are beginning to realize that your life is not paused. Your heart is not a room they can enter whenever they finally feel ready. Your future is moving. And if they do not speak, someone else may recognize the treasure they kept analyzing from a distance. This realization has made them restless. They may be checking your presence more than usual. They may be asking about you indirectly. They may be revisiting old messages, old photographs, or small details from conversations that once seemed ordinary. They are searching for evidence that the door is not completely closed. What they do not understand is that your heart is not asking for perfection. It is asking for truth. You do not need someone who arrives with flawless words. You need someone who arrives with consistent intentions. You do not need a dramatic promise that fades after the emotion passes. You need a choice that remains when life becomes ordinary. Heaven knows this. That is why this connection has been slowed, tested, and refined. Not every delay is rejection. Some delays expose whether a person wants the feeling of love or the responsibility of love. Some delays reveal whether someone is prepared to choose you publicly, privately, consistently, and without games. This person is standing in that lesson now. They are being asked whether they will continue loving you in imagination or finally become honest in reality. And there is one moment from the past that keeps returning to them. You may not even realize its importance. It could have been a simple conversation. A glance. A moment when you encouraged them. A time when you showed compassion without knowing how badly they needed it. Perhaps you said something that everyone else would have forgotten, but they carried it for months. In that moment, they felt seen. Not admired. Seen. There is a difference. Admiration touches the surface. Being seen touches the places a person has spent years hiding. You saw something in them that they had not yet learned to believe about themselves. You treated them as though their heart was worth listening to. You gave them dignity when they felt uncertain. And from that moment, a part of them quietly associated your presence with home. That is why the thought of marriage entered their heart. Not because of appearance alone. Not because of fantasy. Because something in them became peaceful near the thought of building a life where your spirit was present. Do not skip this next part, because the emotional center of the message is opening now. Archangel Michael says the name you must know may already be known to you, but not in the way you think. You may know the person's face. You may know their voice. You may even know their story. But you do not yet know the name they call you in the privacy of their prayers. They do not speak of you as a passing attraction. They refer to you as the one they are afraid they may have met too early, before they were wise enough to recognize what they were being given. They call you the person who changed their standards. They call you the one whose absence became louder than anyone else's presence. They call you the reason they can no longer pretend they are satisfied with shallow connections. And sometimes, when no one is listening, they simply call you the person I should have chosen sooner. Those words carry regret. But they also carry awakening. Regret can either make a person hide or make a person move. For a long time, this person hid. Now, something has shifted. A recent event has forced them to confront the possibility of losing you permanently. Perhaps someone spoke about marriage. Perhaps they attended a wedding and imagined you beside them. Perhaps they saw a couple growing older together and suddenly realized that time is not endless. Perhaps a family member asked when they would stop running from the person they truly love. Or perhaps they dreamed of you. In the dream, you were walking away. You did not look angry. You looked peaceful. And that peace frightened them more than anger would have. Because anger can mean someone still cares enough to fight. Peace can mean someone has finally released what they once waited for. When they woke, the feeling remained. They understood that one day, you might stop wondering about them. One day, your heart might no longer react to their name. One day, the future they assumed would remain available could belong to someone brave enough to show up. Since then, they have been considering a decision. A real decision. One that may affect where they live, how they communicate, what they reveal, and what they are willing to risk. They are asking themselves whether love is worth stepping beyond pride. The answer forming inside them is yes. But there is still a final barrier. They are ashamed of how long they waited. They fear you will see their delay as proof that they never cared. They fear that their silence has already spoken too loudly. They fear that someone else has given you the reassurance they withheld. And most of all, they fear that when they finally say your name with honesty, you will respond with kindness but not with love. This fear has brought them to tears, though they may never admit it publicly. There has been at least one night when they lay awake imagining your life without them. They imagined your wedding. They imagined someone else standing where they wanted to stand. They imagined hearing that you were happy, and although they would want happiness for you, the thought broke something open inside them. That night, they made a private promise. They promised that before the season changed completely, they would find a way to let you know. Maybe not everything at once. Maybe not in perfect words. But enough for you to understand that their heart has not been indifferent. Enough for you to know that the future they want has your name inside it. This is where the story becomes more extraordinary. The person may not be the one everyone expects. You may have assumed it was someone obvious. Someone expressive. Someone who has always shown attention openly. But the energy around this message points towards someone who has been more restrained, more observant, and more emotionally guarded than they appear. They may be known for control. They may rarely confess weakness. They may be the person others trust because they seem calm. But when it comes to you, that calmness is